and understand why it is made. I now call on Government Orders of the Day numbers 1 to 3.
Biosecurity Law Reform Bill, Committee Stage continued. Commerce Commission, International Cooperation and Fees Bill, Committee Stage continued. Juries, Jury Service and Protection of Particulars of Jury List Information Amendment Bill, Committee Stage.
I declare the House in committee for further consideration of the Biosecurity Law Reform Bill and the Commerce Commission International Cooperation and Fees Bill, and consideration of the Juries, Jury Service and Protection of Particulars of Jury List Information Amendment Bill.
Mr. Speaker.
Mr. Chairman.
The House is in committee. Kia ora tātou no reire te whare. A inga iwi, inga rio, inga hawe wha, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou katoa. Te hei mori ora, Minister. Honourable members, we are in committee for consideration of the Biosecurity Law Reform Bill. The committee is resumed. Members, when we last considered this bill, we were debating Part 2. The Honourable Member Rino Terakatani had the call. The member has 2 minutes and 33 seconds remaining if he so wishes to seek the call.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I call the Honourable Member Rino Terakatani. Tēnā koe.
Tēnā koe, Mr. Chair. I'm pleased to continue with my contribution at this committee stage on Part 2 of the Biosecurity Law Reform Bill. Just to recap, Mr. Chair, Part 2 deals with the amendments relating to ballast water, in particular managing the risk of marine pest organisms being introduced to New Zealand in ships' ballast water. Mr. Speaker, the discharge of ballast water is one of the main ways marine pests can be introduced to New Zealand. Each year, almost 3 million metric tonnes of ballast water sourced from outside our exclusive economic zone is discharged into New Zealand ports. So if unmanaged, this water is more likely to contain eggs and larvae of harmful marine organisms which may be able to be established here. So, Mr. Chair, it's vitally important that we beef up our defences in the marine area. Labor supports the provisions in Part 2 of this bill, in particular the alignment with the International Convention for Control and Management of Ships' Ballast Water and Sediments. The definitions in the Act align with that international convention, and that does bring our line of defence in line with best international practice and international control regimes. We also commend the provisions relating to the imposition of a ballast water management levy, which can be imposed by order in council, and because that will help fund the administration, inspection and enforcement of actually our biosecurity workers controlling and keeping an eye on ballast water discharge. Likewise, we support the offence provisions, and it's important that we actually do create very strong deterrents to ships' owners and masters in terms of the discharge. So if they do discharge, that there's actually stiff penalties. So we support those offence provisions. They are very strong, and we also commend the wide powers that the Director General now has to investigate cases where there has been a discharge of ballast water. So we do, as I mentioned, Mr. Chair, we want to protect our pa. We want to make sure that our biosecurity laws do protect our industries and our livelihoods. The marine environment, if we just mentioned, Mr. Chair.
I call the Honourable Member Rino Terakatani.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. If we look at the marine environment, we mention names like Undaria and Didimo. We know what harm that they have caused to our waterways and potentially to our marine industries. Just in terms of Māori, Mr. Chair, We are significant stakeholders in our fisheries industries and our marine farm aquaculture industries, and so any introductions of unwanted, harmful, invasive organisms which could potentially impact on the property rights and the industries could have a huge economic impact on those industries and on our country. So it is very vitally important that we do protect the pā, as I said. We do manage the risk of these marine pest organisms, and we commend the measures that are contained in this Part 2, which relate to the discharge of ballast water. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
I call the honourable member Grant.